Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of The New Unfiltered. Now, I was going to have a guest on for this episode, but unfortunately, he could not make it to the studio today. So it is yours truly. Luckily for you guys, I have a lot to say all of the time. So I have a great new topic today to go over with you. Before I get into what has been going on, I want to remind you to subscribe to Stay Fearless or Die Trying, which is my weekly newsletter on everything being fearless, startup, culture. I actually just hired somebody to help me produce this newsletter because you guys love it so much, and she is phenomenal. I also went to high school with her. So that's why this episode today in particular is exciting for me because it really shows you the power of keeping in contact with people, of reaching out to somebody that you may not have spoken to in a while and whatnot. So aside from her, being new to the team, please go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter. There is a premium option as well. You can get so much free shit, which I love. You guys know I love free shit from the Instagram shop for Alexa Curtis, as well as the Be Fearless Inc. shop on Life Unfiltered with Alexa. If you subscribe to Stay Fearless or Die Trying, you get a free media list or entertainment list. Now the subscription is $15 a month. Actually, I just upped it a little bit. So I think it's like $16 a month. But that being said, one of those lists costs $20. So even just subscribing for a month and then canceling, you're saving money. And I also love seeing you guys save money. Aside from the newsletter, there is a Be Fearless event coming up. You can also head to my Instagram and check that out. Can't wait to see so many of you there, so many new faces. This is an exciting step for my career because I really wasn't sure I was going to do one of these again. And this is not an affiliation with a college. It's a totally different demographic. It is way more almost select, kind of invite only. So you can submit to attend, but we really only accept certain people from certain industries right now who are able to come. So if you don't get into this particular event, of course, you will be invited to the next one and you will get told about when that next one would be after April by subscribing to the newsletter. So this weekend, I went to all of these Golden Globes parties. I am really excited to talk about not only some of the connections and how to maintain some of these connections when you do things like go to an event or go to a party, but more importantly, I am moving into my London apartment on Monday. That is a week from today. Actually, I think I land Tuesday. So I've been in LA for close to, I think, like 3 weeks now at my place here. I signed a 2-year lease in London. Luckily, in London, they allow you to break a lease after a year. So it's like if I hate it, of course, they can come back. I don't think I'm going to hate it, but this is actually really scary. I got into a bit of a routine in LA the past 3 weeks. So the idea that all of a sudden in a week, I'm literally uprooting my life and doing something totally different obviously makes me very excited, but also very nervous because I am only human. But of course, to grow as a person, you have to do things like this. Get out of your comfort zone, be fearless, meet new people, go to different events. So that is next week on Monday. I fly to London and then, I move into this new place that I signed the lease for 2 years, which is insane. So I have no idea how to get even some of my stuff to London. I'm like bringing 3 suitcases, but this is so Alexa Curtis. Aside from that, I've also been writing a book. If you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, it is at Alexa_Curtis. And from there, you can see all of my other pages too. And I've been showing a few clips, teasers, whatever, of this book. Now, I had a phone call yesterday with a literary agent, and I am really hoping she takes the book on. Now, ended up writing unexpectedly halfway of this book, and it's just wild because it has brought me back to a lot of from how I started, when I was 12 and like going to Fashion Week and making a fake assistant and just emailing people and following up. And I've learned so much throughout starting the blog until now. And I've also learned so much about, I think, how to properly get in touch with people. If somebody doesn't respond to you, if somebody doesn't seem interested in your idea, how to keep them engaged. And so that's what I want to tackle on today's episode. Number one, a proper introduction. So if you want to be introduced to somebody by somebody else, this is what I like to do. Now, part of the reason I am relocating part of my business to London is because I see a lot of opportunity there for this Alexa Curtis consulting. The reason is because in the US, what people don't realize, and I am super fortunate that I have the opportunity and have been able to go back and forth through my life, right? Like I've just always been somebody who found a way to travel, loves to travel alone, finds the money if I don't have it to get me there. And so anytime I've gone to Europe, I've always realized I think the main difference, the United Kingdom, Europe, wherever it is, the main difference is that the US is very forward business wise. I don't think if I had been born and raised in London, which is where my mom was born and raised, that I would have been able to do what I've done with my career, with TV segments, with media, with entertainment, because the other parts of the world are just not there. Like they may be really forward in certain elements of tech or money or I don't know, cars, whatnot, right? But when it comes to like business and entrepreneurship, England, Spain, all of these places are not super forward in that. And I think what they lack is community. Obviously, I've been building community since I was 12. It's been something that's kind of been ingrained in my DNA is like community and friends and networking. And so I feel like by going there, I'll have the ability to really connect with different potential clients, to potentially build out a stronger branch of Alexa Curtis Consulting there. And I think also build like a life for myself while also keeping a base in the US, which is great for me because I need to obviously have, in my opinion, a base here because my parents are getting older and whatnot. But yes, so that introduction. So I am telling you exactly right now what I actually said to somebody yesterday who I need to get to introduce me to somebody else. I've talked throughout my podcast many times about I don't ever like to go about ways of conducting or doing business that I find other people think is appropriate. And what I mean by that is I never just ask somebody for an introduction. I never just message somebody and say, can you do this for me? I learned from a very young age, and I think being self-made and having made all of these connections on my own, the importance and value of saving that one ask for a certain time. And what I mean by that is if you scroll back throughout this podcast, if you look at my career trajectory, the people I've been able to interact with, I've interviewed, billionaires, I've interviewed very wealthy people, very successful people that I think really value also being around me, my time and my energy. I've never once just been like, hey, founder of, I don't know, Uber, can you introduce me to like this person you're at this party? Or hey, Alexa, can you get me on the list to this event? Now, I've had so many people throughout my life do that and like, great, good for you. I mean, if we're not close friends, the answer is just no, because I feel like I'm being used and I'm not really anyone, right? So like, think if you say that to somebody who's even bigger and more successful. So I think there is a proper way to get what you want, potentially moderately manipulate a situation when it comes to an introduction, a potential mentor, a great job in a really good light where it's even on both sides. Now, I met a guy in London a few months ago, and he is a really big CEO, and he actually suggested that I should be introduced to some people he's done business with before in London. And so I emailed him, of course, yesterday, can we follow up? It's a new year. He was going to set a phone call. And so his response was basically like, I can, but what do you want me to say? And I wrote out a short paragraph, and I did it in a few different varieties. You can use ChatGPT for something like this. Simply make a paragraph, right? I'll use mine as an example. I said, hi, Mike. I am CCing above Alexa Curtis. She is the founder of Alexa Curtis Consulting. She's a former Disney host. Here is a little bit about her. I attached a link to a Forbes piece of mine. I'm reaching out because I see some synergy between her work and maybe some gaps from what you are looking for when it comes to like business and hiring, and think she may be a valuable asset to at least have a conversation with. Now, I then plug that into ChatGPT and say like, please rewrite this for me, but swap out the name Mike, or please rewrite this for me with a little bit more happy words in there, whatever that may be. And that's how I find I go about getting those proper introductions. It happens very fast. I am not somebody who sits around waiting for things to get done. I'm not somebody who sits around and does not follow up after 72 hours if I haven't heard back. I am somebody who does that because I need to at least hear back to know that either the door is closed or that it's being kept open. And so something simple you can do is if you find yourself getting you lose track of like, who did I email, or should I follow up with so-and-so? At the beginning of every single month, I have a folder on the left-hand side of my email, and it basically says like, this is who to follow up with in January. Now, once I do that round of follow-ups in January, perhaps that's from 30 days before, and I don't hear back, then I say like, move that folder down to another folder that says follow up in 2 weeks, and I'll do a 2-week follow-up. You guys get the gist. And so from there, what I find is it's really helpful for me and simple for me to then know, okay, I need to to follow up with Mike in 2 weeks because he said to follow up in 2 weeks. In business, and whether you're a full-time entrepreneur like me or you're doing something similar to what I am doing or have done, and you are doing it as a side hustle, there's so many things happening in a day, right? Like so many people you probably need to email, so many people you need to get in touch with. So if you don't make it very simple for yourself to do that follow-up, that one follow-up could change your life. That one follow-up could make you a lot of money. So you don't want to risk not remembering to follow up simply because you get busy and life gets in the way. So make it very simple for yourself by having some form of a folder on the left-hand side of your inbox, whatever mail carrier, Outlook, Gmail, whatever it is you use, to keep yourself organized. So that is the introduction to somebody who you're looking and you already know and you want them to introduce you to someone else. Now I'm going to walk you through how to introduce yourself to somebody who you have never met. There are many ways that people go about this. It may be a cold LinkedIn email. It may be a cold email. It may be a cold Instagram message. I am a big fan of cold emailing. I find cold emailing a valuable asset to be able to know how to do along with a cold calling form of communication. And I've done a lot of research on this. And I think also from my own personal experience, if it helps you to know, I mean, I've landed myself on the Today Show, Good Morning America. I've gotten interviewed in Forbes, everything out there you can imagine. And it was all for the most part via a cold email or a cold call. Now, I would say 1% of the connections I've made, okay, maybe I guess I'll up it a bit because I've been in this game for a bit of time. 5% of the connections I've made have been from in-person events. Almost everything else has been through cold outreach because my cold outreach is really fucking good and I do not fuck around with cold outreach. That means I do not fuck around with a follow-up. I always follow up. I always find the right email. And I am very clear with what I want in my messaging. And that's, I think, what a lot of people struggle with is figuring out what your ask is. Now, someone who I actually coach for my premium newsletter subscription, she wanted an introduction to somebody who I know who's very famous, who I interviewed on my podcast over the summer last year. And I told her, look, I'm going to use her name, Morgan. I said, Morgan, write me an email, what it is you want from this person, and make it very clear for this person. So she sent it to me yesterday and her email was just kind of shitty. It was way too salesy. And I was like, look, you're getting a warm intro here. So there's the cold outreach that you don't know the person. I'm giving you an option for a warm intro and this email is not warm. You are selling your services. We're not doing a warm outreach with you selling your services. So I had her reword it. And I think a lot of people in high school and college should be taught this in particular, like how to know what to ask for. This is the proper way to do it. So one of my methods is I like to, if I'm, for example, trying to get myself interviewed in some type of a magazine, I'll go and find somebody on Instagram or LinkedIn. I will connect with them. I will send them a message. I'll say, I did this the other day. I'll use this woman. She's a writer for Forbes, Lizette. I sent her a message on LinkedIn and said, hey, Lizette, I love your work. I would love to send you a proper pitch. What's a good email to send this pitch to? If you're a creator, if you want to start getting paid to do brand deals, great idea to do it this way as well. I prefer LinkedIn because it's professional. I mean, look, when people, I get a lot of Instagram DMs and if you know me and you're in my personal life, I never check my DM. I will go 5 days without checking my DM. I don't know why. I've always been like this. I should check it more. I just don't. And so because of that, you're risking the fact that somebody maybe uses their Instagram for personal and business, may see your message maybe like at home watching TV and totally forget to reply. Whereas LinkedIn, you know that anyone on LinkedIn is looking for career opportunities. They're looking to network and they're looking to mentor. So I would say try LinkedIn first. And if you don't hear back from that person, go ahead and send them a message on Instagram. Once you get that email, if they reply, then you can send, okay, great. I just sent you an email. Looking forward to hearing from you. So many times I have done that and then never heard back. Then I go to LinkedIn and I'm like, hey, Lizette, did you get the email? And she's like, no, I didn't. Can you resend it? So now we need another email folder because sometimes your email just goes to spam. So if you don't hear back, it doesn't mean you're being rejected. It means because this person probably didn't get your email. So that's why you want to create and continue the conversation via both some type of form of a social media channel as well as email. And so this is then how you decide what to say in that cold outreach, depending on what you're looking for. And I use myself as an example because I try to show, when I'm showing you guys how I cold outreach, I try to show it in a way so that you can tailor what I'm saying to whatever it is you're going for. But let's say basic, I guess you're looking for a mentor. This is something similar to what I would say. We'll use this Lizette character, who's a real person actually, as an example. Hey, Lizette, I'm reaching out because I am a huge fan of your work. I have followed you for quite some time and have really enjoyed keeping up with your career. I wanted to email and introduce myself to you as well as my work. Of course, you can amend this to whatever you're going for, with the hopes that perhaps you may be interested in forming a relationship with me as a mentor. Include a sentence about why you think this person would be a great mentor. And then simply at the bottom say, I've attached my media kit, I've attached my resume. Please let me know if you're available for 15 minutes in the next few weeks to get on a phone call if this piques your interest. I like to keep it really simple. I also really advise you to always, regardless of whether you're working for someone else or dream of working for yourself, I'm a big advocate of having this media kit or a one sheet. If somebody wants me to mentor them and they send me their resume, my brain doesn't work with resumes. I mean, if I'm hiring somebody or like want an intern, it's great to look at a resume, but my brain is just wired differently. And obviously I have such a non-traditional job, so I don't need to be like sifting through resumes 24/7. And so I think especially if you're in the creative field, that it can be really valuable to just have a media kit made, have a one sheet made on yourself. Of course, you can make this on Canva. Be Fearless can also make this for you if you go to the link in my Instagram bio, or even go to the show notes of this podcast episode and you can have one of these made, because then you're just helping yourself show this person that you are a real person, that you have done this and that this is what you're looking to do next. And it's just a very valuable asset to have. And then you send the email and then you do the same thing, right? The 72 hours, the follow up. Hey, I don't like to send emails Friday night honestly, by 2 or 3 p.m., wherever time zone I'm in on a Friday, I'm really not sending any emails unless it's urgent. And if it's urgent, then I'm probably needing a weekend off, which means I'm not going to send the email regardless because it's going to give me anxiety and I like to take the weekends off. So I'm not sending emails on Friday. The first thing like Monday, sometimes even on a Sunday night, I like to send an email. I've been working more on Sundays recently than I used to, but I'll send that on a Sunday email as well, that follow-up, whatnot. And I find that, again, really creates and continues that stream of communication, so that even if this person is like, this isn't a fit right now, you are able to go back to them at another time and get their opinion, their advice, whatever you may need. So what happens if you're rejected? Well, this is not that complicated. Rejection is really, as I like to say, a step in a new direction. I have never struggled with rejection. And as I've been writing this book, I've realized that I think there's something wrong with me. I have no problem being rejected, and it's very odd. It's also taken years for me to become so confident to where I don't care. I mean, at the beginning of my career, when I was 12, 13, 14, of course, I was very insecure. I was very nervous. I had confidence issues. Now, because I've been through it so many times, I don't care in my personal life if I'm rejected. I don't care in business as much as if I'm rejected. What I really value is just a reason for it. Dating wise, I never get a reason why I'm rejected in that, if I have been or am. But when it comes to business, I always like to ask some type of question like, thanks for getting back to me. I'd love to know why this isn't a fit. That's a very simple way to get an answer. And closure is a common human need. I mean, I'm no therapist. I go to therapy. I'm no therapist, but I do know that everyone ideally gets a form of closure, right? And so when you are sending a cold or even getting a warm email out to somebody via somebody and you don't hear back, or you hear back and you're rejected, why would you not want to know why you're being rejected? And almost close to 100% amount of the time, you're being rejected not because of something you have done personally, but because it's the wrong time, the company doesn't have the money for what you're looking for, or they've already hired somebody else. Or last thing is, if you're looking for a mentor, this person's probably maxed on like time and capability they have to give anyone else time. And so by asking that, hey, can you give me some feedback why this isn't a good fit right now? You're going to get an honest response, and then you'll be able to say, okay, thank you so much for being honest with me. Perhaps you may know somebody else. What the goal of this podcast episode is to really show you that the way that you conduct yourself in conversation, the way that you show up to these conversations, either in person or online, it is the one sentence that can make a difference in your whole career. That person may be like, oh my gosh, actually, now that you asked, I can introduce you to Bob, and Bob is hiring for this, or Bob needs this. Now you're talking to Bob. Now Bob's going to mentor you. Now Bob's interviewing, like now you're the next Mark Zuckerberg, right? It can be something as simple as that. But if you don't ask or you take the rejection so to heart, not even knowing why you've been rejected, you are already failing yourself in the process. So allow the rejection to push you forward to become a more confident version of yourself so that you're not so nervous about when you're rejected and you really just take it in your stride. And so when I'm at an event, I like to do something similar. My problem with going to networking events is you end up leaving with a lot of business cards, and then a lot of times I'll forget who I met, and I'm like, okay, I have a business card for Gina, but like, who was Gina? What did Gina and I talk about? So this is like one simple sentence I will send to somebody after I meet them at a networking event to reopen the conversation, especially if I forgot what we've spoken about, but I've got this person's business card in front of me. I'll just say, hey, Alexa, it was so great to meet you at South by Southwest. How was the rest of the event? I would love to set up a quick phone call and go over what we spoke about at the party or the event. Let me know if you have time in the next few weeks. I always like to say few weeks and not like few days, because again, I always really like to value somebody's time. I'm not ever eager, like I need to get on the phone with this person who I just met tomorrow, unless there's some urgent deadline, because people have busy schedules and like you don't know if this person's available or not, or if you even matter to them. Like until you get on a phone call, you may not even know like what the conversation is going to become. So you have to, on the phone call, then really go to prove yourself. But that is just one simple sentence that I will say, and that is also a really great opener for this person to say like, oh my gosh, it was so great to meet you too. To be honest, I have no idea what we spoke about, but let's get on a call and like regroup and reconnect. And then from there, like you're pretty good to go. Now you've got this person on your side, you've got this email for this person, and you're able to really run from there and get that introduction, get that mentorship, whatever it is that you need. So let me think of any other outreach ideas for this. I guess my other piece of advice when it comes to introducing yourself to somebody and not feeling nervous about whether or not they're going to say yes or no is to test out this intro to somebody. You can always send an email to a friend of yours and say like, hey, I'm going to introduce myself to this big CEO. I'm hoping they give me a job. What do you think about this email? It's never a bad idea because you're setting yourself up to also feel like you've gotten a second opinion. If this person never responds to you, it doesn't really matter. Like you got somebody else's opinion. They said your email is good to go. Now you feel confident enough to send it and you can go ahead and do that. Whereas sometimes if you send an email and you are nervous about not hearing back, perhaps you may really blame yourself. In reality, I'm telling you, your email's probably gone to their spam. But again, I'm just trying to tell you to set yourself up for success. So if you're somebody who has a lot more anxiety when it comes to like sending that email out or that cold outreach, or even asking somebody to give you a warm intro, then make it really easy for yourself by getting advice from somebody else. And that's pretty much my New Year's inspirational piece on getting those warm introductions. If you are coming to any future or have gone to any prior Be Fearless event, I really enjoy these kind of networking experiences because I love knowing that somebody can walk away from something that I've put together, having landed a friend, a mentor, or a job. Most of the people who have actually come to events that I've hosted in the past have landed at least one out of those three, if not more. And it is wild to me sometimes that one person experience can really create such a different dynamic than what you would expect from that cold outreach. Not that I have anything wrong to say about cold outreach, because as I just mentioned, so much of what I've done is cold outreach, but it's just really great to know that when you go to an event, you really can secure those valuable connections that perhaps you may not get from that form of cold outreach or warm outreach. But I just hope all of you who have listened to this episode feel confident and comfortable enough with these tips to go and start asking for introductions. You are holding yourself back if you don't, but I really do believe there are proper ways and means to go about this so you get everything you want out of that kind of introduction. So If you're not subscribed yet to Stay Fearless or Die Trying, make sure that you do so at the link in the bio or show notes of this podcast. I have been really, really ramping up content with this particular newsletter. I also interviewed Tyler Dank, who is the founder of Beehive, on the new Unfiltered. And this company has blown up like I've never seen a unicorn company blow up before. So it's very fun for me to be able to kind of use Beehive and share tactics about how to land sponsorships while also know the brains behind this fabulous company. So if you haven't also listened to Tyler's episode, make sure to do so. Just scroll down from the new Unfiltered and you will see all past episodes. And subscribe as well to Stay Fearless or Die Trying. If you are a brand introduced in sponsoring the podcast or newsletter or any of my social media and want to be in front of thousands of young, ambitious people, please send me a message or an email. I'm ac@befearlesssummit.org. Summit is befearlesssummit.org. So there's 3 S's in there, not just 2. Happy as well to answer any questions about all of this content and material. And I will see you all back next week for a new episode of The New Unfiltered.